They say to expect the opposite of what Adrian says. They say this Yank is clueless. I'm Canadian, and it's great to see you again. But we're going to do some predictions, and you may be wondering, what's my pick percentage been like in the knockout rounds? How many right, how many wrong? Well, from 20 matchups, 20 predictions so far, I've predicted 16 out of 20 correctly. That's 80% accuracy, which I'm pretty happy with. But what do you say we get straight to rectifying that? Let's get to work on dropping that percentage for you guys. Let's get those numbers down. As always, we'll go over what each team's general form has shown this season, what each club needs to do in order to win, what's absolutely key for them in these matchups, and a cheeky prediction. Okay, let's go. And as always, let me know your picks in the comments. Now guys, as we know, the second leg is extremely important, and Arsenal have the advantage of playing the second leg at the Emirates, which they will be very, very happy with should things go awry at the Metropolitano in the first leg. And let's say they do go awry in Madrid. What would that look like for Arsenal? What would have to happen in order for that to go awry? Well, Arsenal's defense would have to put in a poor performance, and Atleti's now strong attack would have to be very efficient, because anyone who is still trying to tell you that this Atletico Madrid is a team that plays defensive, brutal to watch football, simply uninformed and hasn't watched Atleti in the last couple of years, namely this season though. I did an entire video on this, on just how much they have changed from their previous identity. And this season, they are a team that guarantees goals in their matches for both themselves and their opposition. They beat Club Brugge 7-4 on aggregate. They beat Tottenham 7-5 on aggregate. That's 2 rounds where there were 11 and 12 goals across the 2 legs. A dip against Barcelona, only 3-2 on aggregate, but still very open, entertaining matches with plenty of chances. With Arsenal, a bit different. It seems like no matter who Arteta puts out there right now, they can be a bit laborious in the attack, and that's happening at the wrong end of the season. Trophies on the line. Bad time for this to happen. Now, I will say they looked much better against Manchester City, even though they lost, but Gyökeres staying on the bench until the dying embers of the match, and Havertz, for all of the good he brings, has a knack for missing big chances, and to be fair to him, he's had a stop-start season. Daumann is sort of the variable in the attack. I think he's shown that he can create moments of magic that really belie his age. Will he be trusted by Arteta? We'll see. People who haven't watched Atleti, though, just getting back to that, will scoff when I say this, but I believe in their attack of Griezmann, Alvarez, and Lookman to be in better shape than the guys Arteta puts out there, especially without Bukayo Saka. They can be devastating in transition. If ever they are to get a lead against Arsenal and Arsenal is chasing a result, watch out. I mean, the pace of Llorente overlapping down the right flank where Giuliano Simeone is playing, Lookman down the opposite flank, Alvarez through the middle, Griezmann supplying inch-perfect through balls. I mean, I keep going on about this because the fact that so many people say that Simeone is playing handball in 2026 is aggravating to hear. And I'm not even an Atleti supporter. Lookman and Sorloth, speaking of Lookman, are injured but expected to be healthy by the time of the first leg. But as I've alluded to, even if Arsenal's attack isn't spectacular at the moment and they are more of a team that wins by a single goal, their attack will have opportunities. Atleti's defense in the second leg against Barcelona was suspect, as they were missing both Hansko and Jimenez in the center back positions, but also, as someone reminded me on my UCL This Week recap video, Pubil will be back, as will Hansko likely be back, which is massive, as Lenormand and Langlais were looking like spinning tops out there against Ferran Torres. But at least they have 2 good options in goal with Juan Musso and Jan Oblak, once Simeone feels he's fully ready. Musso has done really well in his stead, however. And when it comes to Arsenal, there's an argument to be made, I think, that David Raya has been their most important player this season and most consistent. And if you disagree with that, then you can at least agree that he's up for consideration, as his shot stopping and command of the box seem to have leveled up this season, while his distribution has been fantastic as well. Really, really good keeper, and at the moment, one of the best. There has been times where he has saved results for Arsenal. He will be key in this tie. Their defense was so good for a while, but now looking at recent matches and just the run of the Premier League in general, they're stuttering a bit. They aren't what they were. In fact, City has conceded just 3 more goals than Arsenal in the Premier League. But don't get it twisted. Arsenal's defense is still their strength, alongside their midfield, where Declan Rice, tired as he may be at the tail end of the season, is a brilliant player. Respect to Zubimendi as well, but Rice is the X factor in the midfield. Relieve him of the shackles of playing deep, and he progresses the ball incredibly well, both by carrying it or through passing, and has great delivery from set pieces as well. And he showed that the last time Arsenal played Atleti, he got an assist, beating them 4-0 at the Emirates in October. That was a very, very different Arsenal side. They were imperious at the time. What hasn't really changed is their form playing at home. Only 2 losses there, though Bournemouth very recently and Sporting showed very recently as well that getting a result at the Emirates isn't off the table. So we have a team in Atleti that has always been sort of all over the place results-wise, just as likely to beat you 4-2 as they are to lose to you 4-0. Coming up against a side that was probably the best team in Europe back in the fall and early winter, who are showing signs of being absolutely rattled at the moment as competitions start to slip out of their grasp, or have already. If Atletico have shown me anything this season and previous seasons, you can never, ever, ever count them out. I mean, they eliminated Barcelona from 2 cup competitions this season, while Arsenal continue to show me that they are a club or a squad that hasn't learned how to win, that hasn't learned how to get things over the line just yet. I can see Atletico Madrid squeaking into the final on the basis of Arsenal not knowing what their best attacking structure is when it comes to personnel and not having that killer instinct. It's constantly changing due to injuries or Arteta's ideas, which doesn't help either. It's an Atleti back line there for the taking, but if Atletico can nurture a good enough lead at the Metropolitano, which is completely sold out, by the way, I think they'll just hang in there enough at the Emirates and get a crucial goal while Arsenal are chasing them in that second leg. By the way, there's been complaints about the Metropolitano surface all season with players slipping all over the place. Atleti have learned how to play on it, but it could provide difficulties for Arsenal, so watch out for that. For this matchup, Bayern is playing the second leg at home, and I gotta say, for me, this one is 50-50, the coin flip of all coin flips, because these teams have some striking similarities. They aren't copies of each other, but there are similar characteristics shared between them, both in the attack, and the defense. One of them, the defense, not being their strongest assets, though they had differing defensive performances in each of their quarterfinals' second legs. On PSG's side, you had a much stronger performance against Liverpool, stronger than we've seen of late, at least when it came to their defending in the box. It wasn't as if they were capable of keeping Liverpool completely at bay, but when Liverpool did get into the box, Marquinhos and Pacho did well to get an important tackle in, a block, or read the play well enough to clear it, and when they didn't, Safonov made a big save. One thing that is fair to point out was it was against a Liverpool side which isn't exactly at their best. You can say the same about Real Madrid too, but Real have shown signs of life in this competition. They did show signs, such as easily defeating Man City, pushing Bayern pretty hard right to the end. Anyway, that's not to take away from PSG's accomplishment, because while they started the season slowly once again, injuries, having to play a full Ligue 1 campaign, a French Cup, the entirety of the Champions League, and the entirety of the Club World Cup also, you can forgive them for not, starting faster. Now, however, we're seeing them starting to resemble that scary team from last season when it comes to their attack, and this is where they can hurt Bayern. Given PSG are comfortable both with and without the ball, they can beat you while being ball dominant or on the counter. The way that Bayern played against Real Madrid would be a bit suicidal against PSG. The amount of times that you had Mbappe or Vinicius sprinting with pace and only a couple of defenders in their way is something that Luis Enrique could only dream of. Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, Nuno Mendes, Dembele, Hakimi, and Doué would feast upon defending like that, and I have to imagine that Kompany will reel that in against PSG. And it goes without saying, Bayern's attack is their greatest strength as well. This is a battle of two of the most potent attacks in Europe. And for me this season, Bayern's is the stronger of the two. Luis Diaz has taken what was already a good attack last season and contributed to making it the best in Europe, contributed to making it a record-breaking attack in Germany, breaking a scoring record that stood for 55 years in the Bundesliga and doing it with a few matches to spare. But what's crazy is seeing Harry Kane lead the line, the best version of Harry Kane, and the guy is 32 years old. In fact, I think I'm going to have to do a video on him and why he still has many years ahead of him at this kind of level. But yeah, for the first time in his career, he scored 50 goals with the cohesion between himself, Olise, Diaz, Gnabry when he wasn't injured, etc. has been wild. And credit to Kompany for how he's organized the attack and for identifying Diaz as the perfect signing following the departures of a guy like Coman, who used to play on that left flank. When you look at PSG's backline versus this Bayern attack, I mean, Bayern is inevitable, and my light going out is also inevitable. So 1 second, please. But yeah, Bayern will score goals, as they did earlier in the season when they defeated PSG. In fact, Bayern have scored against every single opponent this season. The last team to keep a clean sheet against FC Bayern, PSG, in the Club World Cup when they defeated them 2-0, which adds a nice little layer to this clash as well. The big battleground, I think for me, will be in the midfield, where Vitinha has picked up an ankle injury for PSG. Not sure of his return date, but Fabian Ruiz is back. That's big for PSG, as he's excellent at launching counterattacks for them. João Neves and Vitinha do a bit of everything, including sneaking into the back post in Neves' case, and rockets from outside the box for Vitinha, as well as being able to dribble out of any situation. Vitinha is just so press resistant, which is very important when you're playing against Bayern. But one of the most important and best players this season for Bayern has undoubtedly been Kimmich, who is looking like vintage Kimmich again in the midfield. His deliveries into the box are sharp, whether it's a flat delivery that's difficult for a keeper to play or a lofted through ball with pinpoint accuracy. Him playing with Pavlovic has been great. The midfield, main battleground for me, with the flanks being the second one, I guess. Nuno Mendes up against Olise will be fun to watch, while Hakimi on Diaz will be fun as well. Hard to call the battles on the other side, as Luis Enrique mixes up his attackers often, depending on the opposition or what the match calls for. But all of the guys I mentioned before are headaches, and the way the fullbacks join in to overwhelm the defenders is quite something. I imagine there will be a doubling up on Olise in particular, which is a must, similar to how Valverde would get back and help Trent on the other flank against Diaz in the last round. So as I mentioned, this is really difficult to make a call on this one. I think what it comes down to for me is the tiniest of margins, and a big difference from last season to this season is that PSG doesn't have a shot stopper at the caliber of Gigio Donnarumma. He enabled them to win the Champions League, let's be real. Without him against Aston Villa and Arsenal, we probably would have a different Champions League winner. I give a lot of credit to Safonov, who has performed brilliantly, but he will be up against a team that is far less forgiving than Liverpool was in the last round. Bayern just feel like a team that is playing with a razor-sharp focus. That word I used earlier, inevitable. They're playing for revenge against everyone. And despite having a shaky back line, they can still score one more goal than anyone else. So a very close tie, but I see Bayern making the final. How about you, Matt? Is Bayern making it past PSG? Or is PSG going to make a second final in a row? Will Arsenal defeat Atleti, or maybe third time's the charm for Atleti in the final? Let me know. Regardless, I appreciate you joining me here, and I will see you in the next video very soon, my friend. Later.